The solution to the problem is straightforward if we think about it in just the right way. So here I'm going to look at the optimal regulation policy, and here I'm going to look at the optimal subsidy policy. We know that both of them restore the Pareto optimal level of production in good Q, but have different properties. Let's look at the regulation first. We know that the inverse demand function is given by 1000 minus Q, that the marginal cost curve is going to be given by Q, and we know that the optimal policy, for example, the optimal regulation is going to involve a price that leads to the Pareto optimal. So let's say a price to the monopolist equals to 500, at which point the monopolist produces the optimal amount. Now, that policy doesn't entail any taxes or transfers. The consumers buy at that price, so therefore the well-being of the consumers is proportional. The well-being, consumer well-being is proportional to that area, which is equal to a half of 500 times 500, which is equal to $125,000. Okay, now let's look at the optimal subsidy. We're going to do a similar diagram. We have exactly the same inverse demand function. Now the marginal revenue curve is going to be like this, and it's going to cross at a 500 there. This is 1000 where it crosses there, and we have that the marginal cost curve as before. Let me redraw it to make it look better. We know that the marginal cost curve is just Q, it's just the same data as there. Now, and we know that the government wants to lead again to the quantity optimal, which is just equal to 500. To do that, it needs to give a subsidy equals to this distance. And what is that distance? Is 500. Because remember, marginal cost and marginal benefit equals 500. We just saw it there at the optimum. Now, what is going to be consumer well-being here? Well, we know that this is going to be the quantity the monopoly chooses. That's going to generate this market price. So consumer well-being is going to be equal again to that triangle, which is 125,000. But we also need to subtract the amount of taxes that are raised from the consumers and given to the monopolies, which is given by this area. And that area has an area of 500 square. So we get that the total consumer well-being there is minus $125,000. Therefore, the difference is minus $250,000. Consumers are much worse off here than there because of the tax that they need to transfer, the tax revenue they need to transfer to the monopolist.